Yeah.
It's
the ellipses stay. So
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's also indicative of our age.
that's what I heard, man. I read this whole thing about like things that you're not supposed to do in text, and apparently that's one of them. They're called boomer ellipses. So,
well, to be fair, I don't think a lot of people knew how to use them in the first place.
most people do not know how to use it.
To
It's
be
not
honest.
how you finish a thought by leaving it open.
It's not how you finish the thought, but leaving it open. It's also not. I mean, so there are people that when they use it in speech, they actually say it as ... Right? And
Really?
Yes, there are, and that's part of the.
I've never heard someone say
That's
that.
that's the indication that it needs to go. That's Patrick, by the way.
I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey. So that's, again, it's sort of a vestige. It needs to go. But you raised sort of an interesting idea here a second ago when you were talking about the intricacies. You said it reminded you of work, of like that game that you were playing. It reminded you of your old days. In what way?
Well, you're just controlling a locomotive, and so all the remotes, all the controls are accurate.
Okay.
And so it does what it's supposed to do. So all the gauges are accurate. There's not that many on a locomotive, man.
Right.
So now, like, they got a steam train in there, too, and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with that. I've blown it up like 3 times. So, yeah, I don't know anything about it. So I did not go on YouTube to try and figure out how this shit works. So, but I exploded that motherfucker. So twice. I got to run a third time, but I immediately crashed it. So I'm not touching those again. They're dangerous. So, but like, there's a diesel locomotive in there that is exactly like the one that I was trained off of. And it's great. So, because it's like, oh, I know what this is. I know what this is. I know what these 3 switches do.
Yeah.
So I know where the starter is. I know how to crank it. Yeah, it's just nice. It's like having like a car simulator and you've driven that car before. And it's like, oh fuck, I used to drive one of these. This is my first car.
See, no, this is something that you're driving at here that I think would be fascinating, right? So if I were to go back to measurements while drilling, right? And we're making a simulator out of that.
Right.
So, okay, now I'm not talking about the minutia of, like, so when you sleep, I'm obviously not going to, the clock stops. You do what you do, right?
Right.
And you have to set the timer and you have to get up and you have to do your stuff, right? I don't know if it would start directly with the actual quote-unquote gameplay or whether you have to take a shower and...
You have to fill up you got to get your bar green first.
Yeah, and you have to go to the safety meeting.
Right, you got to take up shit.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you actually sit in the command center there,
you
right?
decide what TV channel you're going to watch.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Is like if you have control of the mouse and you have the mouse look on, so you got to turn that way, and you actually have to work the DirecTV board, right, while you're looking over and looking at the
watching ESPN, yeah,
or whatever. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. That's not on at nighttime. No, this is the so.
Oh, so you got to start out at night shift. Huh?
Have to start out at night shift, yeah. And like again, this would be like is part of the simulation taking the drive, right? If you have to,
right?
Because there are like if you look, I don't want to say it's like a popular category, but there are people playing like Euro Truck Simulator and stuff.
Oh,
like
I've
that.
watched you do that on YouTube, man.
Yeah,
So yeah.
So I mean, there is something to this. So if you have to take the drive, right, and you have to make the stops, and you have to like you talked about the green bars, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be the one to stop at the gas stations and buy Kit Kats and fill up the car.
Right. Yeah. Oh fuck, they're out of
the
Slim
truck
Jims.
with gas, right?
Jack's
right,
thinks
right.
it is today.
Yes. So I wonder if there is something, as I was looking at some of the tools and the development stuff, like about how easy, games are being made with like UE5.
They're pretty easy.
Like that.
Yeah.
Not that it's, super easy or anything, but the tools are way better than they've ever been, right?
Yeah, and you can actually get AI to write a lot of the scripts for you now.
And actually look good and that
really
sort of
good,
stuff.
yeah.
Especially, I'll bet you there's something that you could, script into it with the actual street maps. Like you could just feed it into like Google Street View, and
Maybe.
it would like generate that shit. But like if you take something like that and you say like, what is the minutia of, like you were talking about like the train job, right? If I put you in control of not necessarily running the train, which is the action part,
That's
right?
the fun part.
But if I put you in charge of what your job was,
That would suck. That job sucked. So, yeah. You have to decide how many pots of coffee you're going to make through the night. You'd have a button that's like the interrogate button.
Yeah.
Fucking,
see, this could be fun.
You go out there, you guys are fucking the dog. What are you doing? You got a green lights, get rolling, bitches. Yeah, no. You have to go fill up the ice machine every night. No.
This is what, yeah. So what details? This is what I'm talking about. Like, what details would you put into there to make it authentic and make it a game?
I can't, man. It's not a game. It's a job. You know, there was very little that was fun about my job because I had so little control over anything, man. So, like with games, if you take away too much agency, they're no longer games. Now it's just a grind. So, you know.
Well, because you got to remember, as far as mine, you'd have to do the decoding, right? You'd have to do the decoding. You'd have to post the surveys. You'd have to, you know.
You're just doing paperwork then, man. I mean,
of course.
yeah. So, like, no, that's not a good game. There is one game that I did see, and I played it for a little bit. It was in, you know, just some guy's fucking fart around project.
Yeah.
But I could tell this guy had actually worked the ramp at an airport because he made an airport ramp game where he had to load bags and shit.
All right.
So, and it was actually pretty accurate. It was just really rough. So, you know, and like the thing about like that game, because I'm sure like if you did this at a small regional airport, sure, it's a one-man show. Okay, you kind of do all the things.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but like when I did that job for what, 4 or 5 years? Yeah. So the fun part was you were part of a team. So, and you wanted to see how fast you could get it done. So, you know, and like, I'm sorry, but clicky in order to load and unload bags, that's not a good game. So
what's the aspect of the game that would be fun?
I don't.
You're talking about some kind of like team management, but something beyond just looking at a dossier of people and see like 88, 74, 36, 36. You
exactly.
Know, whatever,
yeah. So then, like, if you're gonna do something like that, you might as well zhuzh it up and do like a fucking crime family game instead. You know, I mean, there's nothing. If you're gonna turn it into a personnel simulator, you got to make it fun. So, you know, loading airplanes is not exactly fun. So,
but see, you kind of touched on the major point there is, so you could do a crime game, right? Mm-hmm. And it can be boring as shit because, right, that's just a backdrop, right? You're talking about, so the personnel simulator part of this is what should be interesting. And how do you make a personnel simulator interesting? What is the?
I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. You know, I've only played a few that were kind of fun.
I have no idea. Like, I can't even think of a game in the genre that would fit in that kind of thing.
No, like CK2 is probably the closest thing that you and I have both played. You know, because you do have to manage personalities in that game. So, you know,
right.
I mean, there's a randomness aspect to it, so that would be part of it. Have to be, you know, it's like, oh, my son is gay, great. You know? Right. So this completely changed how I'm going to have to play the game for the next 30 years. So yeah, you know, I don't know, man. Personnel simulator games, like, I mean, nobody plays it for that. I mean, that's a good side game in a lot of games. So like any kind of like if you're managing a football roster, that's part of it, you know. But the fun part is the game, is the football, you know.
Yeah, and I understand that they also do have, it's not as big here, but I also understand, like, in, you know, European territories, they have Football Manager, where...
They do.
You know, that's...
They've had baseball manager games here in the past, where you kind of, you set up the team, and then you set up practices and shit like that, and you work on guys, and you draft guys, but then you don't actually play the game.
It doesn't work here,
though. It doesn't work here, though, man. Those were all back in the, like, late 90s. Yeah. So, yeah, because it was like, what was it? It was like Earl Weaver baseball or something like that. So, it would... I don't
want to impugn the good name of Earl Weaver. So
dude, my dad was totally fucking into that game. So, yeah, because of that. So, yeah. So
like for all the stuff, you know, when you'd break it down and say like, all right, so these were the coaches, like they had like Mike Ditka, you know, football.
Oh yeah,
but it was still a football game. It wasn't. You weren't coaching it. Yeah. I think that. I guess. So to go back to the bag simulator, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about solving the solution of bags, how do you get the most bags on this thing, right?
Yeah.
What you're talking about here is like the last step of the process. How do you take this? So like, let's take the best parts of Dragon Age Inquisition, right?
Okay.
Which were when the people would bring their petty problems to you and you had to stand in judgment of them.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if we're talking about something here where in order to get the most bags onto the plane, it's about managing a team, and it's not just looking at numbers. It's saying like, how do I manage?
But see, it wasn't about getting
the.
It's not like Tetris. So
No.
you know, it's not about getting the most bags on the plane. It's about getting the plane out on time.
Right.
Given the fact that it's fucking full and has a lot of bags.
Right.
So, right.
And that's the last step of the journey. Is
Right.
everything else that you have to prep as manager.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that game would probably it probably does work best if you're just a lone guy and you actually have to run around and do the shit. So, you know.
But I've played that game. I mean, that's what I'm saying is, if I'm looking for a new experience, right?
Oh, I can't help you with that. Yeah.
You know, this is what I'm talking about. So
There's
I
all
can't.
kinds of shit out there. So.
Right. So if I were to make, you know, I don't know who an all-star in this field would be. Like, let's get a celebrity dog walker on this. But you know, this is who we're going to paste on the title, right?
Right. Guy Fieri's Bag Simulator.
Why you want the Driners?
I don't know, man.
Why
you're just looking for a C-tier celebrity. So.
Okay, so we're fuck it. So all right, so when I'm making Tanya Harding's dog walker, right?
You go, yeah.
You know, so this is the thing. Like, do I want the gameplay to actually be walking the dogs, right?
Well, that's an early game decision. When you're doing the design, you have to decide what is actually the fun part of the game, and you design towards that.
Right.
So that does not happen organically. So
No.
The guys who are good at designing games understand that. Then there's a whole shitload of people who are good at other things and don't understand that part. So and they fuck the game up. So we see that happen all the time, man. So
we've played them.
I played a lot of them, man. So Starfield being the most recent example of that. Very talented people. Nobody asked, what the fuck is fun about this game?
You know what? And I can't even say it was talented people at the helm. It would be hard for me to.
Dude, that game had some polish on it, man. So there were definitely
but it had a lot of
had a lot of problems, man. But that's what happens when you have a 100-person team. So you know, I'm gonna say that if I had that team, I'd produce a much better game. So I'm not gonna knock all those guys on that team. So.
No, so okay, so if you're gonna break it down to like Belichickism's number one, right? Where priority number one is do your job, right? So if you're going to say that, then I would argue that there were probably a lot of people that did not do their job.
Chief of all, the designer. So whoever designed that motherfucker. You know, like if it was designed, it almost feels like it was designed by committee.
Well, see, that thing is, if you get down to the baseline of do your job, right? The further you go to the top, the further that you have to like prune ideas and say like, all right, what is the experience about here?
Yeah.
Right. Versus, your whole job is to take something from ingredients and make a dish out of it.
Yeah.
And you can tell in that game, there's a lot of shit that's just ingredients, right? The travel system, that's ingredients. That's left over from
gunplay.
Probably an idea that they had at some point that didn't work out. So it's like, so why do we still have this clunky, stupid travel system in here? I don't know. Why?
Yeah, the travel system was dumb. And I mean, like...
What did it add? What did
nothing.
it add? Yeah.
It had nothing. So, and the same thing's true with like the base building. It didn't do anything.
Exactly.
So it was just like, oh, this worked for some people in Fallout 4, so let's put it here. You know, and like, a lot of that game was just ass writing, too. It was bad writing. It was absolutely terrible. Not just the dialogue, just the storyline, the plot, the everything. You know, it took me about, like, maybe 30 hours in that game, you know, and I get to the point in time where you're visiting Earth. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been on shitholes way worse than this that are full of fucking people. This makes no sense. Your whole story here is busted, kid.
There's that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's funny that there's one adventure in the game that has you basically going into the Upside Down, which has way more potential as a story in that game than the actual game.
Yeah. No, the Upside Down was a great idea. So,
right?
Yeah. The idea of multiple timelines and being able to jump between one to the other and just be like, okay, I've got new friends here because I accidentally blew up all my last ones. And so, you know, and just force you to go forward, you know. So that would have been great.
If the game was that it created like a schism in the timeline, or
that was the whole idea behind it. And they
be
touched on it, but then the execution on it was such shit. But that would have been a fantastic game. So just with like that one little fix, you know, that needed to be made pretty early in the process. So, you know, otherwise all these fucking weeds grow on it. So, you know, and there's some of them are very pretty weeds, granted, but you know, still at the same point in time, it's a busted fucking the story was dumb. So the arc was bad. So, and, you know, like, a lot of the execution was fine. So, but, you know, this is definitely... I just put this one on top. Todd Howard, man. So, he was asleep at the wheel, or he's just that bad now. So, I have no idea.
Well, I mean, that was his pet project. I would argue that it's less of being asleep at the wheel and more of... not being willing to make decisions at like the midline, right?
Yeah.
You know, because there are things that, you know, early on you can tell, like, you have to give it a chance to develop to see if it'll even work. Right. All right, you don't want to cut that stuff too early, but about the midline, you have to look at a series of things and say, like, all right, what's working, what's not working, and if the things that are working are so good, then you have to compromise and say, well, I'm going to change this to actually accommodate what is working, right? The problem there is you can clearly tell that there were things that they were not willing to let go on until like the 0 hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And that is something that as a designer, nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to be like, well, this was my vision. It's like, well, it didn't come true. Like, either you have to put this back on the burner and say it's not going to be done for another 3 years, right? Or you have to say, like, well, okay, well, what are we going to do? All right, well, maybe we'll commit to this being like an episodic thing. We're going to commit to this being like, all right, so this is what I can do, and we're going to continue to push this and say, like, we didn't make all our promises. That's fine, because people generally understand.
Yeah, Old Man Sky did that. So...
Well, don't use that as an example.
Well, they done fucked it up in the beginning, but they had a redemption arc behind it, man.
They did, but I mean, that being said...
It took another year or two, but...
No, dude, it took like 5 years.
Was it that long?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that long.
It took like 5 years for that to start hitting what it is. And on top of that...
Cyberpunk kind of did the same thing, so...
No.
I liked it in the beginning, but a lot of people did not, so...
No. Okay, like the biggest complaints about like Cyberpunk were a lot of it had to do with like glitchy stuff.
It was buggy as fuck. So
and it was way worse on like consoles than it was on computers.
I never tried it on a console.
I wouldn't. I mean, not at this point. That's I wouldn't do that.
It was after I jumped over to the Master Race. So.
Well, and more to that point was those bugs that they had on PC, because I had them, right? They had those fixed within like 6 weeks. They had the major ones fixed like within 6 weeks, and then it was like performance updates.
It was a lot of performance updates
all the way like through on that. But and I understand this is another thing when they looked at it and they said, like, look, here's the development arc of this game. It's way different than what they originally planned.
It is.
Right?
That's true.
And I get it, and I think that's kind of cool because you had to go with what you had. From what they've described, I like their original vision better. But
it didn't work out. Yeah,
I got what I got.
Yeah, it was too heavy a lift.
Well, and I understand that they had some, leadership problems in there, and I get it. That happens.
It happens.
When you see a company like a small company get bigger and that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of what happened to Starfield. Is like you have a fairly well-sized team at this point. You have
same thing with cities too. So.
I'm starting to think that the first game was a fluke. Because
You might be right.
because the second one should not be in the state that it's in, still to this date.
It's awful, man. I haven't uninstalled it yet, but I've got it on my C drive, which is my solid state drive, man. It's just waiting for something big to come out that I want to play, and it's gonna get bumped. So
I get it. I mean, like, and I know that the original Cities was not in its best form when it came out, but the second one, it shouldn't play the way that it does. And it's not that I have problems with the mechanics or anything. It's just that the game doesn't run well.
it doesn't run well. It doesn't look as good. Yeah, there's some things in that game. I mean, like, even small things, like the starting maps fucking suck. They're terrible.
They're not great.
They're awful,
not.
man. So, it's like did you just ask your kid to whip up a couple maps in an afternoon? Dude, there are entire YouTube channels out there dedicated to people who actually fucking design maps for CS1. So, it's crazy. So, and these guys are like topographical, like, geniuses, and they'll pull like a piece of the actual Earth off of, elevation satellites, and then redo it. And then, okay, you want to do New York? Here's New York. Have at it.
Sure.
So they say, like, well, okay, so this is a fantasy map, but it, kind of resembles this, this, and this, and so it's like, this is great. But the new one is just like, these maps are all terrible. So, and, like, I went on the store to download a couple. They're fine, okay, but like, one thing that, and I noticed this with the first Skylines, was because I used quite a few downloadable maps after a little while,
Yeah.
which is fine. But the problem is like, for everybody who does that, there's like, so say you get 5 maps out there, 4 of them are done by guys who just can't help themselves but build all your fucking bridges and tunnels for you. And it's like, assholes,
okay.
that's the favorite.
I gotcha.
Why are you stealing that from me, man? Like. So,
Well, I mean,
it's
in
like your
theory,
map
you
is
could tear them out
useless
and
now.
build them again, but I mean, that's
Not in that game, because it costs money to bulldoze.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
Well, what's weird about it is, so in a city building game, and this is the only thing to me that makes sense, is to basically, like, when you have a initial pack of, let's say, 10. Okay, let's use a nice round number like 10.
Yeah.
Right? I would argue that the purpose of those 10 maps is, variety is one of them, but the other thing is to look at each one and say, like, all right,
The challenge level.
not necessarily challenge level, but in terms of, what do my builders want to do?
Yeah.
Right? And it's not necessarily a challenge thing, because each one will be its own challenge, but it's like, all right, so I need to have a map out here that's basically 90% perfectly flat, because I'm going to have people out there.
Yeah, people are going to want just to build the fucking...
The biggest grid that they can.
Yeah.
Right? Cool. Got it. There was a map like that in Cities. There was
Yes,
one.
there was.
Yep. Then you have to look at the next thing, and you have to say, like, are there people that like to navigate rivers? Are there people that like to, right? And you have a rivers map, right? A lot of times in those games, they've been called like 2 rivers.
Oh, yeah, a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it is what
Wind
it is,
rivers, yeah.
right? And then you go to the next one where it's like Snowville, right? There's
Island of Paradise. Yeah.
that's what it is, and I don't feel like there was an element in there that actually like catered to the way people wanted to build it, and the way that they made up for it was like, yeah, but aren't these maps huge? I'm like, yeah, they are huge, but they're huge and featureless.
Yeah.
Right? It goes back to the Starfield thing again. It's like, boy, this world sure is big, but there ain't shit to do in it.
No, there ain't shit to do in it. And then, yeah, it's like I see the same animals after going to 5 different planets.
Bingo.
It's like, how
Yeah.
the fuck? No, never mind, man. So, F this.
Yeah, and you have this weird sort of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the area, but if I were to call it anything, you have like 10 maps that are all sort of like northern Colorado, again, that's not a strike against it. It's just like all of this looks the same, all of this feels
Very
the same.
steamy. Yeah.
Because you're trying to get all of the landforms on the same map. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like, guys.
The thing is, like all those, like, there's I don't know, man. I got a bunch of nitpicky bullshit that I could say about their fucking maps, but
Well, now's the time and place, but I mean, yeah.
they just weren't fun to play. I'll just boil it down to that.
Well, I mean,
None of them were fun to play.
It's not fun to play.
Not fun to play. And then, like, and the same thing's true with progression. So I did fiddle around with it a bit more. So now when you buy tiles, they cost you money.
Yes.
So to upkeep every single year, and it's fucking expensive. And so it's just like the game, like even the update, it's like, no, you're going to build this kind of city that I want you to build, which is small and drivable and walkable. It's like, so you're going to punish me if I want to build Houstonian suburbs. Got it. All right. So never mind. I'm out. So I'll go find something else to play. And I did. So, there we go.
Now that is, unless, and I have been mistaken on this kind of stuff before. I have been mistaken where I have been just totally misapplying the rules of the game, or in certain cases, and not necessarily the way that they want me to play it, but sometimes it's like, well, you're playing this like the first game. Like, okay, I have to understand that they'll be different. I haven't come across that yet. Now I haven't done a deep dive into like looking at people's charts or anything like that, because I don't want to. I don't find that to be an enjoyable part of the game. But until the game actually is not wretched for me to look at, because I mean, this is, it's the same thing where you play certain games and look, aesthetics count. I mean, this is
they totally count, man. You can only play an ugly game for so long before you're just like, I'm out,
Because to me, like, the first game actually looks better because of the way that it moves in motion, right? And I understand in that game, like, no matter what rig that you ran, it had certain, memory problems where, have you gotten this big? Things are going to slow down. It's like, all right, I get it.
The cities in the first one definitely seem way more alive. So, I mean, I would just spend, like, a whole, like, solid minutes just watching my traffic.
Just looking at it.
Just to see what the fuck was going on. Yeah,
Or following the people, like, from, like, a subway terminal or something like this. Like, okay. But again, that was one of those weird things where the progression on it just didn't make sense in terms of, like, how is this better than the last one?
Yep.
It's just an extra step in here that makes it, like, slightly more complicated, but doesn't offer any new, advantages, doesn't do anything more for me. It's like, this is just,
I do like the road tools, though. That was good.
Road tools are awesome. Yeah. And that's the thing is that and the zoning and stuff like that, I was like, okay, this makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, yeah.
And certain things that I would have, I didn't even know that I wanted, but when they're like, why don't you go ahead and zone your dump? I'm like, holy shit,
yeah, exactly.
Instead of just one big rectangular building, I was like, this is great.
Yeah, but they did that way back in SimCity 2000, man. So it's kind of surprising that some of that shit didn't show up in the first guidelines. So, like, that one...
You get no dispute from me, but yes.
So, that was all SimCities after that. You zoned your harbor. You zoned your airport. So, Now, granted, they looked dumb.
Everything does. Everything like...
But the Skylines one, I mean, the last update that I got, I think, was, like, harbors and fishes or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
It was great, man. I mean, it was like, oh man, these look awesome, and then, they had a new airport in there that was badass. So, it was like, yes, this looks like JFK. This is awesome, So, but there were like other things in that game that were kind of like, what, really? So, but that's okay.
Yeah, and again, that's the same sort of like weird disconnect.
We're loading coal on airplanes out of the freight terminal.
We are. I mean, and again, the same kind of weird things where you look at the logistics of it. It's like, why does a city of 100,000 people need a regional and international airport?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this seems strange,
yeah.
But I get it. It's a certain like scale thing, But yeah, that's one of my big disappointments, man.
That one was pretty disappointing, man. I was pretty stoked for that last fall when it came out.
Yeah,
or actually, definitely. No, that was just the spring, wasn't it?
I don't know.
No, it was last fall.
I'm not going to look at my like handwritten letters to myself of like disappointments and count it back to when this game broke my heart. So
yeah.
But that being said, it's out forever. They may, fix it up, and I may come back to it. Lord knows I've gone back to the first game so many times over the years.
Yeah, me too.
There may be a time when I come back and it's like, wow, this game cooks.
It might. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. But I will say that to get back to the original point, like, I think there's something to be said about, like, maybe injecting some, like, gamification into real life scenarios that could be more fun than I think. So if you go back to, like, when they were making, like, police quest games like that, and they were, doing this for the purpose of, yes, for puzzle solving, but also, they did advocate, they're like, this does have, like, an aspect of police procedure in it, right?
Yeah.
If you made, like, a first-person game where you were playing as a cop, and not every night is going to be, like, a shootout, right?
Yes.
And you have to patrol, and you have to type little things into the computer.
Yes.
And stuff like that. I think there could be, like, some fun that goes into that.
Hey, man,
like,
that was
a totally different look at things.
That's totally what I want to do for my cop game. So,
yeah?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're like a sheriff. So...
Maybe that. Maybe, or you're...
I mean, there is a cop simulator out there that's kind of like that. So I watched a couple guys play it, where you go around and write tickets and shit. But, it's just, that stuff is RNG'd. So what I think you should have a town, small, like Roscoe and Enos town.
Okay.
And, like, Suppression Era South or something like that. Okay.
Oh, we're going back?
Oh, we're going back, man, because you can't have, like, fucking, satellite comms and, fucking tap people's cell phones and shit.
Wait a second. Okay.
You're just doing some old-fashioned gumshoeing in this,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, but then, like, if you have this guy who's a troublemaker in your town and you lock him up, the town gets better.
See, I gotcha. Like,
people don't get robbed. So
there's something to me about, like, that same scenario where you turn the body cam off.
There's no body cam. See, you get rid of all this stuff. I mean, it'd be like this kind of game where you could play it for 40 hours and you shoot one guy.
So, exactly. Yeah. I agree.
So, I
agree.
Yeah. So, and you eat a shitload of donuts. So.
Well, see, okay, so I think we're seeing two different things, but I think the gameplay elements are the same.
Yeah.
I think, like, all right, so what I'm guessing here is that, yes, you do have, like, some random elements that make the game, like...
You have to. Every good game involves some randomness.
Because, I mean, there has to be shit, like, if you're playing a game like that, one of the calls has to be, like, a hit of the deer,
Sure.
And you have to be the one that...
See, I didn't really see it as being, like, just the town cop. Like, it was going to be, like, there'd be, like, an overall arch. Like, you got to find the moonshiners and get them out of your town.
Of course. You have to have... Right.
So there is a progression in it where you'd be like... But you have to actually just do some normal cop shit to figure that stuff out. You have to get to know people. You have to help change a tire every now and then or something like that.
Right.
Then you get some information from that dude. So, and then, you better go check out Earl. He's been up to no good down, by the old gas station.
Yep.
Kind of thing, yeah.
What are you doing out here this late at night? Yeah.
Right. So, but honestly, I've been waiting for, like, I've been tinkering with, like, AI case studies. So,
really?
Like, yeah, and using it to generate dialogue in hypothetical situations, it's actually really fucking good at it. So it's really good at it.
You were fooling with this?
Oh yeah, I've been fooling
okay.
with it for the last couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
So because I want to write new case studies for my classes this fall, rather than
okay.
And so like I'm trying to design this thing that's basically like a role play with AI, where I can like have a class in front of me, and okay, you guys are the manager. All right, we're doing an investigation. Okay. So this is what happened. There's money missing from the till. These are the facts. There's 3 people on shift, and I've been fooling with this, and the thing is you can't really save it, so
okay,
yeah. And so you have to learn how to prompt it so it comes out the same every single time, and I'm getting better at that.
Okay, cool.
But it still has a little bit of variance in it, but you can use it as a dialogue generator fairly easily. So yeah, because you just tell it, hey, this is a situation, I want you to play the role of this, okay, and I'm going to ask you 10 questions. Stay in this role while I ask you these questions. And it'll do it. It's fucking sweet, man. It's mind-boggling.
No, it's cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's so. But sometimes it comes up with random bullshit.
sometimes it's kind of shit. Yeah.
Sometimes it's wrecked. So I'm trying to develop a script that I can just copy, paste in, and then, it's like, all right, it's going to work just most of the time. All right. So,
And if you get something jank, well then, chalk that up to the randomness of life.
yeah, but if it busts the lesson, that's not good.
Of course.
Yeah.
But
So,
sometimes that happens.
sometimes it happens, but I'm trying to find ways to make that as unlikely as possible.
Yeah.
So I have been fucking around with it a bit.
That's cool. That's cool.
And the company that reached out to me, it was an Italian company. So
That was Italian.
It's Italian. So
Oh, I don't know
yeah.
them.
Oh no, I know, man. So apparently AI is a thing over there too now.
You gotta, I mean,
So-
it is, I'm starting to see a little bit more of the application of it. And I'm starting to see why it's always that last mile, right?
Right.
Right? It's always that last mile where when you get to a point like you're talking about where it does 90% of what you want it to do.
Yes.
And then it will kick out some jank shit and you
Yep.
say why.
Why'd
Right?
you do that? Yeah.
And that's the hard part of it there. It's like, how do you get to that point where you can actually trust it? Because again, this is the same thing. This is the same stuff that I'm working with, right now, where on a project where if people ask the AI something simple, it says, well, where am I? Right?
yeah.
Okay. That's a question with layers.
Right.
Right. so in this particular project, right, and this is sort of how I know who's funding it, is if you don't specify your location, right, then it assumes it is one of these two places.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It is either this place in California or it
Yeah.
is this place in Chicago, right? So
Chicago, really?
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time though, it's going to default to this place.
Yeah,
in California.
Yeah.
Near Palo Alto. I'll just leave it at
Right. Yeah, I know.
near, but not in. But because I'm not allowed to divulge. But the thing on this here is, how do you take a question like that and say, on its own, right? Are you asking me, like, your physical location? Are you asking me a spiritual question? Are you asking me,
Right, yeah.
what is your angle on this,
Yeah.
right? And this is the kind of stuff where you can see the breakdown in, all right, so I'm going to apply these tools and let me see what it comes up with, right? And that's where you can see, like, this can give you a really fucked up answer. It could give you...
It can give you, especially if you're querying it on things that don't have searchable tactile answers. So
Absolutely.
yeah, tacit.
Yeah.
Tacit, I know.
Yeah. And so this is the thing where they're trying to get to that last mile, where 90% of questions that people ask, they're very direct because they want answers.
Yep. They
right?
want a specific answer. They just don't want to do the search themselves. Yes.
Absolutely.
It is super highly advanced search engine.
You're absolutely
Yes.
correct.
And if you treat it like that, it's great. But like in my case where I'm creating hypotheticals, or if you wanted to write a movie script or something, it's fucking phenomenal. So, because it draws from all the best out there. So, and then, it like, I had it write this scenario as a play.
Yeah.
It was fantastic,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
There's
you do
no way I could do that. It
Yeah.
cranked it out in like 4 seconds. It was just
Work on shit like that. I know. I mean, you can even tell this, like,
couldn't believe it, man. I was like, oh my god, this would have taken me weeks.
bro, on top of that, you can be specific in the terms of, like,
Yep.
actually what I want you to do is I want you to style it in the style of Wild.
Yes, you
right?
can totally do that.
And it'll do that. And it'll
do that.
look for the key things. You can say, like, you know what, I didn't mean this, but I do mean this. And
Yeah.
it'll do it again
it'll
for you.
fix it,
Right.
yeah.
Right. It's brilliant for that. And
Yeah.
on top of that, unlike humans, this is okay. So I was going to save this for William, like, because he was talking to me about comedies, if you recall.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was trying to give him an example of where shit goes off the rails, in terms of, like, studying comedies and saying, like, you have to do, and it's not a set formula, but there are certain things where I watched something. This is a big time right now where there's a lot of like new release stuff coming out. You know, July. You know, a lot of things coming out, and there was a prime example I wanted to show to William exactly. It's like, this is what I hate. What's happened to comedy, right? And a lot of places they just call this Zoomer humor, right? Now that's
What's the movie?
I saw a trailer for the new Transformers movie, and it's purely animated, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay, and what I was trying to point out to him was like, there's this thing that they count as comedy now, but it doesn't really follow any of the instructions of it. It's just there, where they think that like talking through a tense scene makes it funny, right? So I wanted to point this out to him, and you've probably seen this in movies, and they pass it off as funny, where like you have the villain there, and he's got like all of his bad guys and all the good guys in front of him, and he's explaining his like plan, right? He's kind of like, and this is how I'm going to end it all and reinvent the world in my image. And then you'll have one of the guys that are saying like, "Oh man, you guys got an orange tree here?"
Oh yeah.
And then the bad guy will be like, "What?"
Yeah.
And then he'll be like, "Look, because I understand orange trees, like they're not very they have to be in a certain climate, and they
Dude, they do that in Rick and Morty all the time.
this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, is you think that the idea of just introducing a non sequitur, right, into what had been like a set mood, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's what's passing for humor. Because if you look at it, it's there's no jokes. There's no setup. There's no joke.
Yeah, but like
I hate it.
The roots of that are deeper than like the last year.
No, it's not that it's in the last year, right? This has been something that's been going
on for a while.
Look, there's a
dude, that's leaked into a ton of superhero movies too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I was trying to categorize it. The way that the people used to categorize this, they used to have an old title for this was, well, that happened, right?
Right. Yeah.
Where it's sort of like this like half meta commentary on wow, something weird, and you're not fazed by it, right? But they've kind of evolved that into like they call it Zoomer humor. It's like the cool thing about AI is it has a reference of like good movies, structured things where it can actually set up a joke in Act 1 and pay it off in Act 3.
Oh no, yeah,
because it understands the structure instead of a bunch of fucking like 25 and 28-year-old fucking kids that have been brought under there like as legacies basically, right? And they're just like, wouldn't it be funny? It's like, no, it's not funny. It's not. I'm tired of this.
Yeah. I don't find it funny. So,
no, it's awful. It's anti-humor.
Yeah.
It's an annoyance.
I mean, people do find it funny though. So I'm just not one of them. So yeah, I don't know, man.
But that's what I'm saying.
Dude, I had a hell of a time, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, just having a great time asking ChatGPT to tell me jokes. Some of them are bad. Some of them are just stinkly boomer dad jokks that are just fucking gold. Yes.
And that's fine. And I also understand that ChatGPT, as well as most of them there, look, there's an angle of jokes you're just not going to get.
No, you can't. It won't do it.
It won't do it.
Yeah, it won't do it.
It won't do it. No matter how gently you try, it can't.
It's like, no, can't do that.
So I get that.
I can tell you a joke about goldfish. I was like, yeah, go ahead. Enlighten me.
Which, to my point, I actually think that's a sort of like a media turn that I think is sort of necessary. I think that's going to be... I think there's going to be a little bit more of a turn. I don't want to say to family friendly, but a little bit more of...
There is.
Division of what's good for kids, what's good for adults. Because we've really blurred that line here in the past 10 years. And I think that's something that people are finding objectionable, to be honest with you.
It's not just objectionable, it's tired. So
it is tired.
It's just tired.
It's tired.
Yeah.
Just swearing for the sake of swearing, being crass for the sake of crass. There's no joke there.
No, it doesn't fly anymore, and it's not funny enough on its own to actually stand for very long anymore. So, it's different, and there's a little bit of division on that, but some of it has to do with like the form of media too. So which is rapidly changing. Like the Olympics are going on right now, Jeff. I can't watch them. So
Just because they're not available?
They're not available. I'm not paying for Peacock. So, yeah.
No.
And so, and like, you know, the swimming will be over this week, and I'm not going to pay, you know, like an extra $100 to turn on my YouTube TV for a week to only get like 2 events because I'll only get NBC and CNBC. Fuck that. Yeah. So,
I mean, I'm watching it.
Is it any good? I've always liked the Olympics, man.
I do too. Well, you got to understand, I'm not paying for it.
Right. Well, yeah.
Again, this is.
But it's not on my Air TV, man.
It's not.
No.
It's
which
not.
is bullshit. It used to be on normal NBC, and now it's like, oh no, it's all on MSNBC and CNBC and CNBC Sports, and you know, it's like, fuck you guys. I'm not buying Peacock. So
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. Especially for something that, look,
it's gonna last 2 weeks. Fuck that.
well, that's sort of it, man. Is I have made it clear in the past few years that I don't condone piracy. I generally don't.
Yeah, no.
And I've tried to make it, you know, my business to whenever possible or realistic to pay for the media that I want to consume, right? Because I want people to actually, you know, continue doing this. But there are certain things that's like, well, I would never have paid to watch this anyway, right?
Yeah.
There's no version of this where I would. I don't care.
You should be happy that you get ad eyeballs out of me.
There's that, and things like this when it comes to like sports games. Again, I don't care because this is all stuff where, to me, this was, and I've told William this. I'm like, I liked it when it was on Sunday and Monday, right? I don't even care that I didn't have the choice on all the games. It's like, that was when we actually had sort of like cultural touchstones where it's like, did you watch the Giants game? Yes, I did, because it was on Sunday night, right? So you watch like 4 games a week. That's cool, right? Everybody watches Monday. That's cool, right? So I don't care about that. The other thing is, like the Olympics, okay? If they were straightforward, okay? They said, you want to watch the Olympics, huh? It's like, okay, so if you want to watch all the Olympics, $25.
Yeah. And here's the website.
$25. Here's the website. Here's how it plays
here's
on
the
your TVs.
schedule. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, here's the app.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
here's the app. You just press the share button, and you can watch it anywhere, anytime that you want. Right. Every Olympic event is right here for you. And as a matter of fact, if you're confused, hit this button. It'll tell you where all of the what's on it every time here.
Here's your planner. You can actually schedule it.
Absolutely. So, right. That $25, no problem.
No problem. Sold.
But if you're going to do it in the way that you're saying, well, what we're doing is we're actually holding the Olympics for ransom.
They are holding the Olympics for ransom. So
and
yeah, absolutely,
fucking
you know, fucking Captain Morgan them as much as
that
you
is
want,
correct.
Yeah.
Dude, I have fond memories of like this is where I got involved with it because my dad and my mom would watch the Olympics. On regular TV
all the time. Yeah.
Right? That's how I got involved in these things.
No.
And that doesn't exist.
No, my mom's still watching the gymnastics. She loves it. So
absolutely.
Know? And I'm just like, I can't get it. So it's not on. It's fucking. It's blocked on my airwave server. So or my antenna thing. So, you know, it shows up as fucking. And you can tell like when you flip to NBC, it's blocked. Because they're doing like infomercials.
Right.
So, and it's like, I don't care about the shark fact. So, you know, I know there's Olympics on right now, and you guys are just fucking me. So, you know, it's on cable. It's like, I don't have cable. So, you know.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people don't anymore. Yeah. You guys made it. We're not the ones that told you to do this to cable.
Yeah.
Right? We're not the ones who instigated this.
No.
Right? And this is okay, and you can tell me like these are your thoughts here when it comes to like streaming. I don't know. What do you think? Is this something that when you look at the grand experiment that was 25 streaming services, right? Was there a net positive or was there a net negative?
Well, I don't know. That remains to be seen. I mean, it depends on what it turns into next. So
okay, that's fair.
I don't know. Is it better than the old Comcast model where you get everything and then they just gouge you? So, and slowly boil your frog? No, probably not. Because now at least I can turn it off and they beg me to come back.
That's
So,
true.
so that I'd say that's a positive.
Yeah.
The fact that I have to subscribe to 4 different services to get like all the entertainment that I used to, that's a negative.
Right.
So,
right. I guess I should reframe the question here is, as a consumer, right? I guess I would ask you this. What are the things that as a consumer, right? If I were to say like, give me like your top 3 things, like what are the top 3 things that you value as a consumer from in-home entertainment?
well, the same thing that all consider. I want it cheapest and I want the most that I can possibly get. So,
Well, okay, so
Yeah.
cheapest, most that you can possibly get. Does the
with reliable service. There we go.
reliable service, but does does content matter?
Not as much as you'd think. So,
Okay.
yeah, because quite honestly, I mean, like, I'm kind of like your brother, man. I can find anything to watch, to just have on in the background. But, like, I'm not a good judgment for this anymore because I don't engage with media. Like,
Why?
because this is one of the exact reasons. why.
Yeah, that would be my question.
Yeah,
Why?
so
Why?
this is one reason. Well, first of all, like, it started with me with bad movies, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm not paying $25 to go to the theater anymore." So if the movies suck, so the last one that I saw was a shit Star Wars movie. So, and that was like many Star Wars movies ago.
Right.
So I have not been to the theater since, and I have no intention of going back. So they beat it out of me. I'm done. So now I am so far behind on whatever qualifies for cinema that I'm just simply out of the market. I have aged out of the market. So
Okay. Okay.
So that one's
no. This is interesting. No. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to.
that's not a new thing though. That happened to my dad too. So my dad said the same thing about like in the 80s when all the action movies were going on and stuff. He's like, "Oh, this isn't my cinema. This is what I grew up with. I'm not going back." And he did it. So,
No, I understand that. I guess and on top of that too, I mean, there is a thing when you get to a point. I know that my family is like, that's kind of expensive. It's like to take me, the wife, and the 2 kids out there. It's kind of pricey. So we're going to do it kind of rarely. It's going to be an event.
right, yeah.
Right. Does watching stuff on exactly what you want on your schedule matter?
Not really.
No?
No.
Okay.
YouTube's beat that out of me. I can wait until I'm ready to watch it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that
In fact, I prefer that now. So, yeah. Because like I subscribe to so much shit, man, that I'll let it build up for a day or two, and then I'll just turn it on. So
Okay.
and let it rip.
Okay.
And I don't do the active watching that I used to. I never watch TV without doing something on my computer anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you've sort of made a statement about it with that process. You've sort of relegated it to background noise.
It's radio for me. It's basically radio.
Okay.
Yeah. Like all radio, I only listen to radio when I'm driving. So that's the key, like that's the critical like task, driving.
Right.
Radio is secondary.
You know,
So TV is the same way for me. It's like I'm doing shit on my computer, TV is the radio.
You know what's funny is I didn't realize how true that was. Again, I just recently took a road trip. Anytime that I felt I needed to focus on the road, the
You turn the
radio is
radio
what I turn
off.
off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It shouldn't matter, but it does.
it does.
It's like
Yeah.
I don't know if what the when you're talking about using human RAM, I don't know what the percentage is where you say like, all right, paying attention to the radio in any capacity. If it's 16%, 5%, 2%, whatever, it doesn't matter. That has to go off.
Right, yeah, especially if traffic's fucked up. Yeah.
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 If traffic's fucked up, or if I see Snowflake 1 hit the ground,
That doesn't bother me that much. Now, if it's so bad that I can't tell the snowflakes from the reflectors on the side of the highway, then I can
radio goes off. All right, so
Those are the ones that don't move.
I gotta tell you, what I was noticing, I was in 3 stages when I was doing this. Was I went from if it's starting to get a little bit hairy, radio goes off, and then the next step was really about how tight my buttocks would get because I was
2 hands on the wheel.
yes
Yeah,
yes
yeah.
yes and it's a bit I actively tried to turn it off because I was like, I know I'm a better driver when I'm totally relaxed.
Yeah, me too.
Right? Instead of taking turns in chunks.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because you've actually sort of you're touching on something weird about media. Like I've talked about this with cultural touchstones here. I was thinking about in this same way, like when I sort of because video games used to be a huge part of my life, right?
Yeah.
Used to be. I liked it a lot, especially like competitive elements, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that when I stopped caring about that, a lot of my enjoyment just went out the window.
Yeah, sure.
But that was the stage before that was not enjoying it with friends.
Right, yeah.
Right? Because there was nothing there to really like discuss or go over. And that's what I sort of feel like is happening with media here by the way that it's segmented out, right? It's not a commonality at all anymore.
Not even close.
Not even a little bit.
None of it is. Not that, not music, not sports. I mean, sports has still got a little bit of it, you know.
Barely.
Like football does. Football's got a pretty good hold on people. So I can talk to an entire class about football. I cannot talk to them about music or video games. Like, most of the young kids, they don't even play video games anymore. So...
But they do...
Not the ones that... Not the way that you think... It's not like... cartridge and controller time.
I saw the shit that my nephew was
totally
playing.
Different. Yeah. No, like my daughter, the only crossover game between us was like Minecraft. So, you know, and then like same thing with my wife. My wife plays a ton of like phone tablet games, I'm like, okay, it's basically Candy Crush.
You're like, I could give a fuck about this, but
that's not my kind of game.
Yeah.
So so it's completely different, and then. Like, I'll have a couple students now who know what I'm talking about when it's like, oh, you know, yeah, I'm waiting for GTA 6. But it used to be like 5 years ago, they were all playing it.
Right.
That's changed substantially.
It absolutely has. And I mean, I'm starting to wonder if that's why I've sort of lost touch with, in the same way, because I very much, you know, like it used to be, like, movies like you talked about active watching. It's like there's not much of that anymore. Yeah. It's and I don't know if it's the fault of the media. It's just the I don't know, because the problem is by any objective metric, if I were to look at this and say like the quality of programming has only skyrocketed, right? Just in terms of production values, like if you remember watching like the TV version of It back in the day with Tim Curry, it's like
that one was really good.
It wasn't. I mean,
I like that one.
I mean, I like parts of it. As a matter of fact, I'll also say that I prefer the presentation of it and the presentation of Pennywise in this, where it was not a scary clown, right?
No, it worked pretty good.
But
the giant plastic spider was pretty.
This is what I'm talking.
But it's a made-for-TV movie. It's okay.
But that's the thing is, made-for-TV movies do not look like dog shit like they used to.
No, they look fine now.
Right?
Yeah.
And the acting is significantly better, and you have people that are crossed over.
Yeah, but I've just got a million other things competing for my time.
That's exactly it. Right?
So, like,
the bar of all entertainment has been lifted.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's fine. It means they have to work harder for it. That's fine. So.
But that's the thing is, people still don't care. That's the thing is it's...
Well, I mean, you'll have some dedicated people who do, and they'll pay for all your stuff and buy all your merch and stuff like that. But, you know, that's fine. You know, the idea that 80% of, like, anybody within, you know, 335 million of us are going to watch the same fucking thing is impossible.
It'll never happen again.
No, unless we get 9/11 again, then sure. You know. You know, so, but yeah, other than that, no. So, you know. Not everybody, like, I mean...
Those numbers on the final episode of Cheers and MASH...
Never.
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, never gonna happen again.
Yeah.
So, not until you consolidate all media down to 5 companies again. So, and that's not gonna happen. So, because distributed models, at this point in time, I mean, if you got a fucking iPhone, you can make a blockbuster movie. So, that's never gonna happen, like, again, unless, you know, like, something else comes out that costs a lot of fucking capital to make. It's like GTA 6 is going to be the last hurrah of that entire generation of games, man. So where they spend that much money, you know, and 10 years production time on a major AAA title, because it's been 10 years since the last one, the whole industry will be completely fucked sword in 10 years compared to where it is now. So,
Now hold on. All right. Now the unique situation in that is that the fifth one is still making money.
I know
which is
weird.
unreal.
Yes. So yeah.
That's sort of like a unicorn situation where that game to me is not a game as a service, right?
No, that game's an experience. Yeah.
But
so
I guess I am not the player that has kept it active because for me, like
no, that's Twitch. It's
I
gonna keep
rented it
alive. Yeah.
like a decade ago, played it.
Yeah.
I was done with it in like 20 hours. I didn't, yeah, because if you get down to it, the main storyline of that game is not very long, right? You can get that knocked out. It's how much fucking nonsense and strip clubs and
No. It's the online component now.
But that's the thing is like I would never have touched that.
Twitch kept it alive, man, because and the developers of it were good about like allowing people to mod shit, and next thing you know, you got like fucking RP cop servers and gang war servers and all kinds of different shit out there, and then on top of it, you have completely serious people on there who play as EMTs. It's basically a dollhouse, man, that has guns. And a lot of kids treat it that way.
People have done that, they just haven't done it well.
No.
And I guess that's to the credit of that game.
Yeah. No, they did a good job.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was not their ideal customer because, like, when you look at the traditional models of GTA, it was like you play the single player game, you then buy the 2 DLCs that come out, right? Which is what they did with all the ones before that. There is a goofy little online component into some of the other ones where you can dig around a little bit.
Yeah,
but
they did that with Red Dead.
This halfway narrative experience that they have in that with no formal, like, you have to go in there and say like, well, what are we doing? It's like, well, let's pretend we just moved here. And if we both just moved here, what do we have to do? It's like, well, you have to get a car. It's like, well, do I go buy one? It's like, no, you just use your elbow and
yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I don't have any money. Do we go to the bank? It's like, bank's not open. It's like, here, I can show you how to get money.
Yeah, let's go rob a liquor store.
And then you play at this game, and eventually, like, what happens is you go to the rooftop and start shooting rockets at people. It's like,
right, yeah, and then you take on the entire FBI and the army. Yeah.
I get it. Like, that is exactly the kind of thing that I would have had fun with. As a matter of fact,
that wasn't planned though. So
no.
So they turned around and they did that as an experiment to see if they could do it because so many people asked for it. So that's one where they literally listened to the fans, and the fans kept pumping money into that game for the next decade.
It's unreal.
Yeah, no, it's unreal. I mean, you go to Twitch now, it's still probably your top 5 or 6 different streams that are actually based upon a game. So I guarantee it's in your top 5.
You know what blew my mind?
Yeah.
Some of the things that are still in there. League of Legends is still in there.
Yep.
You know?
So is Dota. Yeah.
It's like, this shit is old. Like, and that's...
People you can find games of StarCraft 2 on there, man. It's not hard.
But there are people that still prefer StarCraft 1.
Red Alert, yeah.
People that still prefer StarCraft 1. There are still people that say it's a better game. And
I don't think I ever played that one.
The first one?
I don't think I ever did.
I know your brother did. I don't know if you did, but
I don't think I did.
I played it. I played it quite a bit. Yeah, and I guess the second one is fun too. I just never got around to it.
I played a shitload of StarCraft 2.
Did you?
If I've got it right, man, I don't remember. So I'm pretty sure it was StarCraft 2 that I was playing. Yeah, because I played Warcraft 2 first, and then StarCraft 2.
No, StarCraft 1.
Then it must have been StarCraft.
StarCraft was after Warcraft 2.
Okay, then I played that one. Yeah, because I know the first Blizzard game that I played was Diablo, and then Warcraft 2.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Those might be flipped. So, but those were the first ones that I played.
I mean, if there was like around that time, if they're flipped, we're not talking about a question of like months.
Yeah, but I know I never played the first StarCraft or first Warcraft, but I did play the first Command and Conquer a lot.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
I played that one a lot, so probably more than I played 3. Or I mean,
Red Alert.
Red Alert.
Really?
Yeah, I probably played the first one more than I played.
Oh.
Kevin and I were way into that game, man. We go Recuser and play it every fucking day for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, there were things about the first one I liked better, but not much.
the mole tanks, come on.
Well, there was that. I like the kind of. I know it's stupid, but I kind of like the zoomed in view a little bit better.
It
than
was
the first
nicer,
one.
yeah.
But then when you look at it from a gameplay aspect, you're like, well, this is dumb. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah, you can't see shit.
No.
Can't see shit.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing right now is you still have people like trying to put out stuff. The did you read up on the Yasuke controversy this
No,
week?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh my god, this is so funny. All right, so we were talking about the
What is Yasuke?
Yasuke is the black samurai from.
Oh no, man, I'm not touching that shit.
Oh, it's brilliant.
If I
No.
see that stuff on my IGN or whatever, I'm like, no, I'm out.
No, the turn on it is absolutely genius. This is why I have to tell you about this.
Okay.
Okay, so the fight on this, of course, was that initially Ubisoft was like, "Look, we're using we're trying to replicate the setting. We're using a real person, right? And this is the data that we have about this, right? This is the information that this guy. So there's no information that says he wasn't actually a samurai, right? Now, the further that they went into this, because of course the argument is like, you have all of this time period and you picked the one black guy and told every Japanese person, fuck you, we're doing this person, right? Because we've got a little article here that says that Yasuke was this.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that the information that came to verify this came from a guy that was editing the Wikipedia article about it himself.
Not surprised.
Okay? And he was sourcing a book that he hadn't put out yet.
Oh, okay.
And he was the one that basically put this information into Wikipedia, sourced his own book that wasn't out. And then when his book was released, right, basically this was all 100% bullshit.
Was
Right.
this guy a historian or is he just some yahoo?
He is a professor in Japan,
Oh, okay.
a white guy, a
Uh-huh.
white British guy,
Okay.
right, who has since been basically, like, denounced by his university and, like, all this other stuff.
Yeah,
because he
got
basically
busted.
made a whole bunch of shit up. And this was the thing when people were, like, busting on us, like, look, guys, this is a real figure, blah, 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 blah. Like, you guys have no reason to be arguing. It's like, actually, this kind of speaks to academia, Wikipedia, and all the stuff that goes into it. This was fucking phony from the get-go.
History's been guilty of that quite a bit.
Yes.
So, yeah, lately. I mean, they've always kind of had a history of that. Like, there's the guy who wrote, Hitler's diary. So, back in the 70s, it almost got away with it.
Oh, what's the same thing with the smallpox blankets and
Oh, yeah, that one's kind of an anecdote, but, it's not like a serious... Like, somebody trying to forge Hitler's diary and almost getting away with it, that's a pretty big fucking deal.
well,
Like one instance, and then, like some cultural yahoos take it as an, like... I mean, if you asked any historian of, like the colonial period, they could have told you at any point in time that the blanket story was bullshit. So that's not where the whole field got excited about that.
right.
That's why, like, virtually every historian in the United States took one look at the 1619 project and started opening fire on it. So, and that's because this is just patently false.
right.
So, but yeah, there's always been people. Then this is why we shouldn't teach history in school until you go to college. But whatever.
Well, because
Because it's fun. It's fun to start these fucking fights, okay? And then people take it seriously, and then it affects, like, their thinking on certain things, and then they don't think correctly about history. History is something that happened in the past. It has nothing to say about what's going to happen fucking tomorrow, okay? I mean, like, nothing, okay? So, I mean, it's just what happened yesterday, okay? Just because you probably get up and maybe eat the same thing 2 days in a row, okay, doesn't mean you couldn't do something different tomorrow. So...
no, it
And
doesn't.
oftentimes you can very easily do something different tomorrow. So, and so, like, This is this is the problem with it, man. Is it just becomes it because it is fun. You talk about things like samurai and pirates, and like if you're particularly depressive, you can go learn all you want about the Holocaust, man. It doesn't tell you anything about what's going on in the world today, so it doesn't tell you anything about human nature either. It's just shit that happened. So but it's fun, and so that's why people try and make it into more than what it is. So
So if I were to, I mean, does that apply? Like, so for example, like, if you go back to like earth science, biology, that kind of stuff,
sure.
Right?
Much more predictable.
Well, it is
much more predictable.
But part of that in that process was learning about like Gregor Mendel, right? And this was like, when you talk about like the pea projects with the actual peas on how to develop the Punnett squares and all this stuff. I mean, I would count that as history. I wouldn't necessarily count it as science. But I mean, is that something that you would say like, well, you don't have to know this,
but if you'd like to
understand, like,
here's an extra credit.
That, or is it just a neat aside within the?
It kind of is a neat aside, I mean, if you're really curious about the etymology and where, like, well, not the etymology, that's not the right word.
No.
So like it's like, what is that called?
You're talking about like the origin of a process.
Right. So it's the history of science is something that it's fine if you really want to know what Darwin was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So, but you're going to learn a lot more about science, not by worrying about Darwin, but by reading modern lit, actually written by people who did that shit and have, they understand like the historiography of that concept. Okay. If you really want to get into it, great. It's there for you. That should not be on the top billing of what it is that you're trying to learn. Just like the same thing. If I'm going to teach, like the Pythagorean theorem, I'm more interested in the fact that you know how to do it rather than you know who Pythagoras was. Knowing who Pythagoras was is decidedly less important. So, if you're interested in it, have at it. Okay. But it just doesn't matter as much as people like try and think it does. So
what do they think it matters? I guess that's my question is, what do they perceive that it matters?
Well, they want to look for a way that, in some ways, like, oh, he was, fucking Greek, and so he was wrong about this because he didn't know about blah, 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 and stuff like that. And ergo, this Pythagorean theorem is bullshit. It's like, no, it's not, bro. So it's math. Do the proof on it,
Right.
So, and people do that all the time with history. And the problem with, like, any kind of historical, political, sociological, or even psychology, in some respects, is that you can actually use history to kind of undo a lot of that shit. It was like, oh, well, yeah, he might have said that, but he was a fucking, I mean, he hated Jews, so blah, blah, and it's like, and it's better that you just don't fucking know that if you're going to use it that way.
Well, I mean, it's funny. No, you're absolutely right in the sense that that history becomes we've talked about the pointlessness of historicism and basically it becomes a series of, I will find something ad hominem about this person to invalidate
Correct.
Anything that they've done or anything they didn't do.
Yeah, exactly. And rather than taking a look at the actual product. So, like, people do this with Marx all the time. I'm not going to defend Marx, but the argument that I've been hearing over the last 2 years is, oh my God, he was a racist, anti-Semite, blah, blah, blah. Why don't they talk about that? And it's like, that's a good point, but that doesn't refute his argument, So, you did make a fundamental argument about the value of labor. Refute that. Don't say, oh, well, he hated Jews. It's like, got it, but irrelevant.
We can talk about that. No,
talk about that in the context.
No, exactly. Eventually it all becomes a no true Scotsman thing. It's going to
Right.
It's like, you think I'm going to sit here and discuss economic policy with someone that eats Cocoa Puffs? Really? You want to talk about the most dog shit cereal in the aisle here? I throw the milk away.
Right,
and this is... No, you're absolutely right in that regard. And I would... To that end, I would think that I can see... You've made this point before, and there's absolutely some truth to it, where you say, like, all right, well, if you can't teach it responsibly, then don't teach it at all, which is a good point here. because
Make it voluntary. If you want to walk down that path, walk down that path. That's fucking fine. Okay? There's a lot of neat stuff back there. And who knows, you might find something that you find really enlightening that helps you, find answers to things that are going on. Whatever, okay? So, but still at the same point in time, the idea that we all need to be steeped in our past lest we lose our future is hot fucking garbage, and I hate it.
no,
So I hate that with a burning passion. So
no. As a matter of fact, like, all right. As far as I'm concerned, it's witchcraft. It's basically
just witchcraft.
no. It is because this was something that I just went down a different rabbit hole recently. It was a religious thing. It was a well. It's funny because I was looking into a very particular Bible passage, right? Where it was talking about the persecution of witches, right? And there's a particular Bible craft or a Bible verse that talks about "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," right?
Yeah.
Now I was like, really? Did people have like that much of a boner against this kind of thing? I was like, well, it turns out no. It turns out that basically this was a subset of people, right? There was a catch-all group where it's like, no, they weren't targeting out people like this. What they were targeting out was this subset of people, and a lot of that had to do with divination, right? And
What, like finding water?
well, that's part of it, but
okay.
more so the divination that comes with the future,
Oh, okay. Got
right?
it.
And so a lot of that was what was like seen as that was their version of witchcraft, was basically these people that were preying on a,
It's Hucksterdom, yeah, I get
well,
it.
it's Hucksterdom, and again, this is something that it goes back to put any gods before me. It's like, oh, okay, I see. Because you're calling out to other spirits to basically look for answers to the future. I'm like, I'm not justifying this shit, but I was like, what is the origin of this?
It's
right?
hard to dig into that, so...
Well, and that was the point that I came to was like, okay, it is interpreted in 2024 that Bible hates witches.
Yeah, completely different.
But that's not what it was about.
No.
I was like, and so like the whole thing there is, with your argument, I can see one possible alternative, which is the same thing that we should be doing with science, right? Which is, it's the method that we should be teaching versus
The method is very important.
versus the actual content. Where it's like, so if you're going to look at history, right?
You got to use
What
the
is the
proper method.
right way to use it? If you catch yourself doing ad hominem shit,
yeah.
you should flay yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It's, well, all right. I don't know. Okay, all right.
Jump in your own
I
ass.
say, yeah.
Cut off your dick.
No, it's Garfield when Binky comes on. He's like, "What am I doing?" Right? There should be, there should be a version of this where if you catch yourself doing this shit, you're like, "No, I'm dishonoring the system by doing this." Right? And
See, and that's one of the problems with history is that there's not a good right way to do it. So,
that's
there's like several different methods you can take. So none of them are the best way to do it. Okay.
walk me through it. What are the most honest academic ways of looking at history? What is what would be a base guideline from the people that you've seen and you respect? What would be the base tenets of studying history?
Studying history?
Yes, basically studying history and using it for the purpose of understanding our past, not necessarily as a series of tarot cards
Right.
to divine our future.
You got to start with a good base of knowledge, man. I mean, that involves a lot of secondary reading, which is the part that most people fucking skip. And the same thing's true with the Bible. People go right to the Bible when they should read a Bible primer first, because the guy who wrote that probably speak Greek or Latin. So, which you kind of need one of those two in order to truly understand the Bible. So, because the original words are not the words that are printed in the one that you found in the fucking hotel room drawer. So,
Okay.
and they can mean very different, like Greek in particular, which is the original translation of the Bible, was originally written in Greek.
Right.
So where words have like 5 fucking meanings, so it's like worse than Russian. So, so I mean, yeah, and so you got to be really careful about some of that stuff. So read a good primer on it. Start with your secondary sources. That way, I know that you've done some homework on it. you know, 9 times out of 10, like when I run into people who make arguments about like Hitler, it's like, you haven't read a single biography on the guy, have you? Okay, you just went and read Mein Kampf. That's not the right way to fucking do that. Or you read parts of Mein Kampf, or you watched a little bit of his.
I was going to say, man, like,
Yeah,
I would
so-
imagine a lot of people haven't, like, cracked book number 1 about this.
Probably not, you know, but yeah, you got to read, like, if you really want to know something, you got to read what other scholars have already done. So that way, that'll fill in a lot of your gaps in knowledge, but then it'll also expose parts where they disagree on it. So, you know, like, there are absolute bona fide Hitler scholars out there who completely fucking disagree on the drugs. So, you know, whether or not he was doped or not. So, whether or not those were vitamins or whether or not it was fucking, you know, speed that he was on.
Yes.
Nobody knows, okay? So, because those records don't exist, it's an unknowable at this point in time. Unless, you know, someone fucking, you know, like, I don't know, bulldozes a house in Bavaria and finds Hitler's secret stash underneath it. I mean, so, you know, it's an unknowable, so you've got to remove that off the table. So, you know, at that point in time. So, and that's what a lot of people don't do. So, well, it could be blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you don't know that. Okay? And you can't know that without additional information.
Okay, so
stop that.
I'm gonna say, okay,
Yeah.
so the it sounds to me like the first rule would be managing assumptions.
Absolutely.
Or maybe
Managing expectations for conclusions. So, yes. So you really have to do a good job of being able to temper, like there's a term for this. You have oh fuck, man, I'm just having trouble with terms today.
no.
It's the study of knowledge, what's actually knowable and unknowable. So what can actually be established and what cannot be established.
Oh my god, this
It's really good stuff.
no, this like goes into like Sartre. Like this is
Yeah, it's older.
it's a
than-
it's
yeah,
a
it goes back
philosophy
to,
term.
It
Yeah,
goes back to Aristotle.
Yeah,
So it's called epistemology. There we go. So yeah, if you have you have to have the right epistemological mindset in order to be able to engage with history responsibly. So meaning that some things are indeed lost to the historical veil. We will never know what Alexander the Great looked like.
Is there not even a single drawing?
Not even a single fucking one. Not a one. There's not a bust. There's not a drawing. There's nothing. So from the time in which he lived, there is exactly one artifact that can be tied to him, and it's like a fucking nameplate. Like the thing you'd put on your desk that says Alexander Conqueror. So we'll never know what he looks like. Now, people have described it, okay? They said he was short, he was blonde, he was blue-eyed, okay? He was really stocky, okay? But we don't know if he had a hob nose, we don't know if he had a curled lip, so we don't know all these things. Now, okay, I can show you exactly what Leonardo looked like, okay?
Yeah.
Because not only did he do his own shit, but there's a number of other people who drew him or sculpted him, so I can tell you exactly. So that's knowable.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one, we can hash that one out because there's an actual answer out there. You know, so, but like other things, can't tell you. Like, you know, the famous Battle of Thermopylae, we don't even know if that actually fucking happened. Now, that's because it comes from exactly one source. So,
Herodotus?
it's Herodotus,
Yeah.
also known as the father of lies. So we don't actually know that it happened, but it's generally accepted that it does, so there's room for debate there. Okay, so because yes, you can go and you can see the spot, and maybe they've done some digs there and found some arrowheads or something like that. Whatever. Okay, so, okay, fine, maybe it did happen, probably did happen, but you got to assign probability to these things. So, and then if I turn around and look at, like, you know, something that's really difficult to answer, like what exactly happened in Jerusalem at 32 AD, okay, there are a couple things that can be established.
Yes.
There was a guy named Jesus.
Yes.
The Romans did kill the shit out of him.
They did.
Okay? Did he rise up 3 days later? Science says no. Records say yes. Some records say no. Others say definitely. Some of those were written at the time. Most of them were written 100 years
After.
later, at least a century later. Oh, so this is something that's debatable. But you have to manage your expectations. Can you actually solve that one? Short a time machine and iPhone? Probably not. So, you know.
No,
So
and
that doesn't mean you take it off the table. You just have to manage your expectations about your conclusions on that.
well, that's
So,
that's sort of it right there. It sounds to me like, again, this goes back into rule number one. Is we have to be able to make two piles: conclusions and okay, basically the provables and the assumptions.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that doesn't mean that there's not room for. That doesn't mean that there's not room for speculation, right? That's part of the
You
fun.
can speculate, but so many people speculate and jump to conclusion. You know,
Well-
they say, well, you know, this makes sense to me, so, you know, whatever.
Well, it's not just they speculate.
Is true.
It's not that they just like speculate and then jump to conclusion. It's that people are very quick to canonize things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, especially if they're fun. Especially if it's neat, you know? So, that happens all the time in history. History barfs up really cool things all the time. It's like, wow, you know, I think we were talking about that last week. You can't write this shit. So, you know, but that's like normal for history. You know, it does that. So it's like, wait a minute, what the fuck? This guy who, you know, should have gotten shot 1,000 times in this one war, you know, got thrown in jail afterwards. And, you know, 6 years later, he's in charge of Germany. And we start this world war 10 years after. Wow, you know, you couldn't write that shit. You know, but it happened. So, you know.
It's funny to know that there is a list of countries
Right, yeah.
that was sent to Hitler, and he said, you shouldn't invade these places.
Right.
And he did.
He did all of them.
Now, it's
Check them off the boxes. Yeah.
no, it's I saw that. I didn't know this was a real thing. I saw this recently, and when he says Poland, everybody in the room laughs.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the kind of stuff that that I can look back and say, like, you shouldn't have touched any of them, dipshit. This isn't gonna work out for you.
No.
What are you fuckers laughing at?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that.
We didn't know that at the time.
No, but you're right. There's a to me, yeah. I guess that's it. Is this the quick to canonize the certain things that okay. So that's number one is going to be like, you have to set rules on assumptions, and this is something where like it's almost like you should know that's a party foul when you bring it up, right?
Right.
The second thing, and I think you and I can agree on this here, is being able to separate the argument from the person making it. This is a logical fallacy, but
people are so bad at that now. It's not even doable, man. I mean, that's cancel culture for you. So, you know, the last 10 years, that's been the fucking problem. So, you know, well, he did blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but his point is valid, so let's talk about it, you know? What are the merits of the point? Well, I don't care. He's fucking racist. It's like, okay, got it. It's not an unwillingness to understand. It's a refusal to understand. So, which is just, I don't get it.
No,
get
of
it.
course you do get it. Of course you get it, because if they actually tried to understand, it would denigrate the point that they've decided that they want to be true.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, look.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. No, and that's the point. It's all outcome based. So
Right.
yeah, there's no process based.
I think that's your argument.
Yeah.
There is process versus outcome.
Yeah. No,
It's the process that you
it's
should
the
be.
process.
The pursuit of the process.
It's the journey or the destination. You know, used to be so good at the journey, man. So you know, the journey was the fun part. So you know, like beating the game was kind of like, oh, I want to play a little bit more. Or unless the game was ass,
you get to
you're like, oh,
this was
good.
Hey, dude, you and I.
Good.
Bro, listen, we live in blessed times, right? Because it like when it comes down to it, like you would get one game for your birthday and one game for Christmas, and if the shit laid an egg, you still had to play the game and beat it because that's all you had.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I did play a lot of Jaws, and the game was absolute ass. But
look, there's an appeal to it, but there's not much there. There's very little meat on that bone when you scrape away.
Yeah.
Like when you look at the design documents, it's written on a fucking cocktail napkin.
Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that you make a game called Jaws and center it on what, the fourth one?
yeah,
I mean, that's a hell of a place to start.
Is so bad.
That's a hell of a place to start, man. So
I can't believe it's got Michael Caine in it.
But that's what I'm talking about. It's like, so we come with that thing, like, it is a blessing now to be like, I don't like this. I'm not going to keep playing on it. And you say, like, well, I only played it for 2 hours. I'm going to get a refund. Or, God help you, you're at 4 hours and you say, I know I spent the $25.
Right, yeah, I'm in.
But I'm just not going to keep playing it.
No, I'm this is $25 that I just lost. So
My fault.
Yeah.
My fault. So yeah, it's a little bit different than it was, but yeah, that's a lot. You're right. It is about the process. I mean, to look at it and say, like, and to me right now, to see people like tearing down statues of Lincoln, I'm like,
that's insane, man.
I can't get you guys. I can't.
I can't either. So
You have declared that the cardinal sin is some form of quote unquote racism in the current day.
Spray painting that replica of the Liberty Bell,
Bro,
man.
that was getting me so upset. I was
that made me angry, man. I mean, at first I was like, "Are they in fucking?" I know that motherfucker's inside.
Yeah.
So I was like, "All right, so that's not the real one. Otherwise, it's time to go pack your coat, get in the car."
Dude, I was
I'm taking a little cross country road trip here, Jeff, before school starts.
Dude, I was.
You're gonna stop at the hardware
I know,
store and get some
I know.
canes. So
I'm with you. And all you had to do was ask. At that moment, I was like so mad, but
I wasn't that mad. It was one of those things where it was like, oh my gosh, you got. It's like, just listen to the man, okay? And if you don't like what he has to say, make an argument. I mean, this is the famous like Lawrence of Arabia where he spits in front of him and he says that's not an argument. It's like, you guys should watch that fucking movie. So, I know it's 5.5 hours long or whatever. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff. But it's just I couldn't. It was just there was something about that just wasn't registering.
Well, again, the same point comes across as, what the fuck does doing this have to do with Palestine?
Almost nothing. I mean, there's like not even congruity to it, man. So yeah, dude, that Democratic like the DNC is going to be a shit show this year. It's going to be buckle up, bro, because that's what, next week or the following week.
The funny shit, man. Like this week has been. Operation Memory Hole has been one of the funniest things.
Oh man, I really feel bad for Joe Biden. I do now, man.
In terms of how he was done dirty.
He got done dirty. So they didn't even clean the knives off before they did that.
No.
So no, man, and it's just like,
and it comes from the guy that's supposed to be like his closest friend.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly who the guy. We've got to narrow down to 3 people, and all 3 of them like together. So but it's just it's like, I don't know. We could talk for 2 more hours on that, but it's just it's crazy, man. So I always push back against the they thing. I was like, who are they? Oh, they is the deep state. I think that's bullshit.
The only question is, how many parentheses are we using here?
No. This is not that they. Yeah. So this is the parenthesis left. The parenthesis left. They. So but we've always talked about the they. Well, what are they going to do? What are they going to? Now we know who the 3 they are. So and how they act, and so it's not it's not George Soros and Democratic donors, because it's patently obvious that those guys follow orders too. So and
sometimes guys are capital guys, not decision guys.
Correct.
They put the capital where they're told to put the capital.
Well, they put the capital in places not where they're not. It's not like marching orders, but it's like, I won't return your phone calls if you don't do this, kind of thing. That's what it is. It's not like Obama picks up the phone and says, "Hey, donate $1 million to these guys." No.
It's softer than that, but it's just as intentional.
No, it's totally intentional. Yeah. So now we know, and so it's just it's crazy that 3 people who are ostensibly no longer involved in the party can basically run out a sitting president. So that is, and this is a distinctly Democrat problem.
And you did this when there's no real possibility of leaving it to the people to decide who they want.
Well, they will in November. So
Well, I mean, on their party side.
I don't think that's relevant anymore. So
My ass, because when it comes down to it, when I say,
no, I don't think it's not their party, man.
Well, no, this is what I'm telling you.
This is the party where you vote for the party, not the person.
That's ridiculous.
That's what it is. I'm not saying it's right, but they made that patently clear here.
The
Man.
person that's currently in the seat right now got less than 1% of the vote at the primary.
Oh, you mean in the seat?
Kamala Harris.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about Joe. So
No.
sorry, man. I'm not tracking with you. So yeah,
We're talking about the person
you're
that
talking
the people
about the
said
presumptive
flat out,
nominee.
Yes.
So.
The one that all the money shifted to.
Well, I mean, partially. So there was $160 million in Joe's war chest. You were right about that. Her name was actually on that, so she was actually entitled to that.
Because it was the ticket.
Because it was a ticket.
Yeah, in the same way that if Joe Biden had passed, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. I get that.
But then a shitload more money came in, like over $200 million over the next like 48 hours.
Yes.
That was completely different. That demonstrates that this has been going on for a lot more than 2-3 weeks. So they've been working on this for a couple months. Maybe not more than that, but definitely a couple.
Yes,
months. Yeah.
but to put this in the again, but he didn't pass away, and this is going to a person that again was not voted for. Was the primary said we don't want you?
Yeah,
That's what you're getting.
Well, I mean, and that's. I mean, to be fair, it's their party. They can set it up the way they want. So there's nothing in the Constitution that says you have to have voter primaries. It's got it. So it's generally accepted since 1976. That's the way we do things. But prior to that, it was not how we did things. So.
No, and we've had a weird thing. I mean, just
It's been weird.
the basis of the changes of the electoral college over time, like, is the original intent versus the way that it plays out now is very different.
It is.
Where it was seen as more of a, this is what people are saying, so let's discuss this, right? And we'll make a decision where to cast this, which is interesting, but it's not how it's done now.
I don't know what law governs that. So
I'm not even sure either. Frankly,
I'm sure
I don't even know if there's an official law that
I
says
think there is. I've never looked into it.
I can't tell you.
Yeah, and I don't know how old it is either. I know there's like a big electoral reform in the 60s that, relates to that.
That may be it. So
Yeah, but
mean,
I don't know the exact rules on it. And no, I don't think it actually requires that you do a voter-based primary. I think that was based upon the fact that one side did it first, and it was really popular, so the other side started doing it that way too. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of voters.
And you know what? That's okay, because frankly, I see that as a perfectly good evolution of the way that the system goes. However, to get back to the original point here, the memory holding of so news organizations, and this is the shittiest thing out there, is...
Did you see him call out Axios on this?
So you saw it, man.
I saw that one. That was great.
And they are
that was the exact guy.
It's the same fucking writer.
Guy.
But yeah, and so many places are just sweeping this shit. It's like never happened, never happened, never happened. If it wasn't for, and this is there was a question that came out. It was a little bit of an ass kissing one, but it was something that was on X, where they said, like, if you could tell Elon Musk one thing about, the purchase of this, what would you say? And frankly,
Purchase
it was
of what?
Of Twitter, of this.
Twitter.
And my whole take on this was like, look at how things have changed with just the liberation of one social media app, right? Whereupon Axios could not basically disappear that, right?
Yeah.
Where this is something that is now part of the permanent record. The whole thing where the thing where with the Minnesota fund, right? Where this was the one Harris has this. Her tweet was still up of give to the Minnesota.
Oh yeah. Okay, that fine.
Where they were
sorry,
like,
man, you're going a little fast for me
Oh,
to
I'm sorry,
actually
I'm
keep
sorry,
up here.
I'm sorry.
So yeah,
But they were like, this never happened. It's like the tweet is still up.
yeah, no, okay.
And then they screen capped it before it disappeared. I mean, this is the shit where news organizations were claiming that as false.
Yeah,
It's like, guys, you're a journalist, right?
you're not journalists; they're advocates. So
Exactly.
that's
the
all
same
it
thing.
is.
Same thing goes with Google and all the stuff here, where
Google is particularly bad right now, man. I mean, like my Google News app is basically unusable. So
they're trying to basically memory hold the assassination attempt.
Yeah, mine might not be a good, like, because I mean it still responds to your searches, and I've been keeping on top of that one really carefully. I actually watched who's the FBI director, Christopher Wray.
Ray, yeah.
I watched his entire testimony the other day. It was actually pretty good. So
Yeah, he was not like fucking what's her name?
Oh, the Secret Service.
Yes.
No. This was before Congress. So yeah. So when he got called, oh yeah, that's right. She got hauled before Congress too, and AOC tore her a new one, which is kind of classic now. So, but his testimony was actually pretty good. I watched the testimony of the Pennsylvania State Police captain or colonel of the state troopers.
Oh, okay.
He actually filled in a lot of good details too. We could probably talk about that for an hour, but
Well, was he the one that said nobody talked to us until after the?
yes, yeah, he was the guy. He was like, we didn't even know. So yeah, and then there's a couple really good interviews from local cops, so that are up there. So I've been looking through all that shit, and so it's in my feed. So I don't know if it would be there if I wasn't. Same thing with Donald Trump's golf game. That was delicious. So watching, even guys at Sports Illustrated trying to bash his golf game, and then he was like, actually, he's really fucking good. That's all I'll take now. Because he was
a lot of it.
Because he was willing to spend an hour with, who was it, Bryson DeChambeau, so who's actually a pretty big fucking deal in the PGA. I actually knew him before this whole thing happened.
From where?
Oh, the yacht club. They watch golf all the time.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So, but then like the rest of it, is just it's been Harris this, Harris that, Harris, and I'm like, guys, and like even the last 2 days they've been talking about the polls. You're not going to get any kind of decent polling for at least 2 to 3 more weeks. So, because people don't even have time to digest this shit. So, it just happened last week. So, lay off that shit. It hasn't even been 7 fucking days. It hasn't been 7 fucking days.
No.
And so they're trying to tell me, and I mean, to be fair, like other, like, shithole polls like Rasmussen were already like, oh, Trump's already upset. Don't pay attention to those fuckers. So, they get paid. So don't do that. You got to give it 2 weeks, 3 weeks to actually see the aggregate polls. So but I'm telling you, man, it's not going to be the cakewalk that like the news is starting to say that it is, because a lot of people saw the bullshit that happened. A lot of people, and I'm not on the Twitter, so but I can read comments so on certain things. And the amount of like, what the fuck is happening kind of comments out there vastly outnumber, oh, she's got my vote, kind of stuff. It'll be, I don't think it's going to pan out the way that anybody thinks it is. So, I really don't.
I have,
there's so many states now that are up, like, if you take someone who is known for being associated with San Francisco for 20 years, that is the shit volcano that erupted all over the rest of the country. Everybody knows this. Everybody west of like fucking Virginia knows this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like it. I mean, you couldn't pick someone out of that stable of candidates over there who's worse on a lot of these issues. And for them to completely 180 on this when they were all talking shit about her just a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
It's crazy.
And now you're trying to backpedal it.
And everybody's watching them do it, and nobody's buying it. Nobody's fucking buying it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so like eventually, I don't know how that pans out because of course none of these organizations are actually supported by subscriptions, so they can basically exist indefinitely. You know, NBC and MSNBC, they get all their money from Comcast. You know, they don't need subscribers, they don't need views. CNN's the same way; it gets its money from cable deals. Fox News is the same way. Yep. So, you know, they just cater to a different segment of the market. You know, and so it really is independent media. And whoever makes it to the independent media sector first is going to win, and that's going to be Donald Trump. So, dude, it's going to be fucking days before he shows up on Rogan here. So, you know.
Well, Patrick, here's the interesting thing. Okay,
you think Kamala Harris is going to sit down and do a 3-hour fucking podcast? No way. So.
No, Rogan would eat her alive. But
even if it's a left leaning one out there, she could go on like the Pod Save America guys or something like that. You know.
Oh yeah.
And like you're not going to be able to stand up to scrutiny for any amount of length of time. So
well,
you know, anything that's not orchestrated.
This is the biggest problem with her. Okay, is at least with Joe Biden. Okay, you have the ability to lean back on this, say like, yeah, he's kind of old. Yes, so he's going to slur his speech a little bit, and things aren't always going to be exactly the way that he wants. With Kamala Harris, she's 59. Okay.
Yeah, I know she's not old.
And this is the thing is, you can't go 15 minutes without her saying something retarded, and you cannot.
Yeah, I know.
Two things. You can't stop her from saying something retarded in a retarded way, and you can't say, "Oh, she's old."
No, you can't do that.
That's one of the problems.
No, I mean she's great on teleprompter. Her speech the other day was actually pretty good. So you know, I didn't agree with like anything that she had to say, but the delivery was fine. So if she does that, if she actually does any kind of impromptu, like we just have to wait for her first, like, you know, they calling it Joe's big boy press conference at NATO a couple of weeks ago. Remember when that was news? Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. Dev, this is fucking dog years, man.
I know.
It's fucking dog years, and I think we're all aging at the right pace. So
it's so unreal.
Yeah, but like, you know, if she has her first quote unquote big girl press conference, I'm going to be really curious to see what outlets are actually invited to that. And she will not be able to run away from independent media forever. It will not work. So, you know, I'm sorry, there's not enough Gen Z TikTok in the world to actually compensate for that. You know, because quite honestly, eventually she's going to have to answer some questions, man. She's going to have to ask questions about Joe. She's going to have to answer questions about a record. And push comes to shove, if it happens, it'll happen during the next fucking debate. So, because there's no way Donald Trump, Grandpa Trump...
Yeah, now the fact that they pivoted on that and said like as soon as Joe was out, then they threw it's like, isn't Donald Trump too old for this?
I gotta tell you, all right. So after watching the golf video, he is definitely aged. So
he's aged, and yes,
I don't think he's lost a step, but he's got that old man slouch going on. So he is definitely fatter than he was before.
Well,
that's why I call him. It's like endearingly now I'm calling him Grandpa Trump, because it's kind of like your older, wiser, more mellow version of the uncle who used to throw things at Thanksgiving. Right. Now he's a different guy, and so you know, I think they're going to kind of step on the gas on that one a little bit, because people respond to that really well. You know, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy. He was a dick." He was like, "Oh, but he's cool now." You know, kind of thing.
Look. In terms of how do you play something correctly after you've been shot? You can't do a better job than he did.
No, he didn't really.
Where he didn't.
He joked about it the next day.
That's the thing, is he didn't come out there and say like, because the rest of the people in the world, they're upset, but he was just kind of like, all right, I got a joke for you.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And this is exactly how you're supposed to do it.
I saw him at that Minnesota thing the other day where he was like, yeah, they called me a threat to democracy. He was like, well, I took a bullet for it. So, you know? And I was like, that's a zinger, man. You know, he's always been good at that. So, but he's just not going to get the coverage that he used to get. And that's why, you know, you're going to see him on, he's going to show up on, I mean, like, I don't know, like everybody was talking the last 2 days about how Kamala is blowing up TikTok and stuff. Dude, if I go through YouTube Shorts now, it's all Donald Trump like fucking tipping this guy and fucking giving this kid a photo op, and like just working tables at Mar-a-Lago, or swinging golf clubs, or ripping off like some money off his cash flow to buy people milkshakes. And I'm like, dude, you guys are gonna lose this so badly,
Bro.
because you're all like collectively navel gazing over here, over this thing, and now they're talking about like taking actual decent Democratic, contenders in the future and putting them in their kamikaze plane here, with her, and it's like, don't you dare fucking do that to Mark Kelly. That guy's awesome. So don't you do that to Shapiro. He's awesome too, man. What the fuck? So,
I mean, he's got his problems, but yes, I understand.
yeah, he does have his problems. I get that. And I didn't know about those until just the last day. So, but I don't know how serious those problems are, whatever.
If they come out in the wash, they come out in the wash. Exactly. And yes, I will change my perspective on it. Like, again, but frankly, when it comes to Pennsylvania, there's only one guy that I care about in Pennsylvania. And he's really changed my opinion about and that's
Fetterman?
Yes.
Oh, he's great, man.
Yeah. You want to talk about a guy who, like, dude, it's like a Constantine dream. He went to bed one night. He had a dream about crosses, right? He said, "I got to paint these on the Democratic shield." Woke up one morning, fucking the empire was saved. It's like so. What's the deal? It's like, I can only tell the truth about both sides. I'm on this party because roughly 53% of the things I believe lean blue instead of 47.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell the truth wherever I see it. I'm like, what the fuck happened to you, man? You went to the hospital and you came back. It's like the devil spoke to you himself.
I think that happened to Donald Trump in his hospital, right? Too.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, and this is the thing. The thing that got me, and this was the shit where it's just like you guys just don't get it. You guys just don't get it. You don't want to get it, and you have to double down on this. Is Patrick? Where did Kamala Harris start her campaign? What was her first appearance? Do you know where?
Here. This one this time?
This one this time.
It was to her staffers. So
well, in terms of not just the staffers, but coming out like her first appearance as I'm campaigning to be president. You know
it was in a gym. It was in a high school like athlete thing.
It was an appearance on RuPaul's Drag Race.
That was the first. Oh, I thought you meant like speaking.
Right. No.
Yeah,
the
I didn't.
First appearance was on. And again, it's like,
isn't that British? Or am I that ignorant? So
they have two versions.
Oh, okay, so it's like The Office.
Yeah.
I always thought RuPaul was a British thing. So,
but that was her first appearance, this is just again like you don't get it. Like the guys that are out there, like actually, you need to go out there and tell the public right now that I'm with all of you plumbers and tile setters. Right?
No, she's going to go right to Hollywood, man. That's what she knows.
But that's what I'm talking about is...
Well, and they're going to all rally around her and piss everybody off like they have been for the last 10 years, man.
So you're going to win California.
It's the stupidest thing because it's almost like a repeat of like the last three campaigns we've... So Joe Biden's campaign in 2020 was different because COVID was going on. Donald Trump would be president right now if COVID hadn't happened.
Bingo. Yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. All right, so take that one off the table because that one doesn't really count. There's something weird about that one, kind of like 2008. There's something weird about that one, too.
Same thing goes with 2001.
Well, yeah. That one was just close. There was nothing fucked up about the campaign. So
no, not about the campaign, but if you're talking about like the re-election situation here when it came with George Bush v. Kerry, where a lot of people
that's 2004.
Yeah. Right, but I'm talking about post 2001, where people are like, well, you don't change a horse mid-stride.
Oh, other than the Swift boat thing, Kerry might have very well won that.
That's what I'm saying.
He might have very well won that.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying.
I mean, Kerry did have a fucking silver star for crying out loud.
I'm not fighting with that. Yeah. What I'm saying there is there were a lot of people that were like, look, he's been in charge of this military operation. And frankly, if it weren't for that, I don't think he would have gotten.
I don't think
the
so
next
either.
time. But yeah, that's what we're talking about, extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, but so like if you go back to 2016, 2012, maybe 2008, but 2008 was a little bit different because everybody was really sick of George W. Bush, myself included, even though I voted for him twice.
I did too.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, no, and I'm not embarrassed about that, but at the same point in time, 2008 was a little bit different because nobody was going to vote red that year. So even though I really like John McCain, but It was like, no, we should bring the boys home. So, but anyway,
It was, well, in a lot of ways for me. Hey, I that's who I voted for Obama in 2008 as well.
yeah, I did too.
Because to me, it sounded like the biggest indication that we're not going in the right direction. I want somebody that's going
the change thing really worked that
Yes.
year. Okay,
Yes.
so it really
in
every possible way that it could.
Correct.
But it wasn't Hollywood dependent. So 2012 felt a little bit. You started seeing a little bit of that because this is when George Clooney started, and all those guys started really coming out.
Well, he was
You
doing
know.
his dick riding in 2008 too.
Yeah, I understand, man, but he brought a lot of friends in 2012.
Yeah.
2016 was when it was thick and heavy, and everybody was like, "Fuck this." So,
This was like,
Yeah.
it's embarrassing.
so
Yeah.
and then like in 2020, Hollywood got a little bit of a breather because they basically, were too busy focusing on COVID and Brad Pitt playing fucking Anthony Fauci on SNL. So they had their own thing going on that year. They
Yes.
don't have something going on this year. They're going to jump on this one, and they're going to fucking sink that ship. So,
Yes.
when you let Rob Reiner in the rowboat, it's going down, buddy. Because nobody can fucking stand that guy. So, if you live more than 30 minutes away from a coastline, you do not like that guy.
Correct. And I would argue at this point, given the number of flat out fucking defections, right, of people who are like, no, I'm not going to associate myself with these people, right?
Who? Give me an example. I'm not sure what defections you're talking about, like which direction.
Well, if you're talking about like getting on board with the I'm a celebrity, ergo I'm with these guys. Okay, now you have your stalwarts, you have your John Voights, you have your it's weird that Hulk Hogan is now the face of this.
Dude, I love that. I gotta be
it's-
honest with you. I'd take Hulk Hogan over John Voight any day.
That's what I'm talking. But yeah, that's what I'm talking
Same
about.
thing
here
with
is-
old angry man Eastwood. So yeah.
Yes, and you have a
He
lot.
did fuck that up when he was talking to the chair. So yeah,
It
was bad.
It didn't land.
no.
It didn't do.
Hollywood needs to stay the fuck away from Donald Trump. So Hollywood itself is just toxic.
Well,
Just don't get in the boat. Stay over there.
Well,
just shut up.
this is so number one. Number one, this is what I talked about with the media thing. Is like, you guys aren't the stars that you think you were,
They're not.
right? Because there is no star power anymore. It's falling apart for a reason.
Totally.
Right. And number two, nobody gives a fuck.
No,
Nobody,
they'll have Beyonce at their fucking thing though.
I know,
Yeah.
and Beyonce is going to do this, and that was a say. I don't even know who this one rapper chick is. Like, oh, come on, she's Brat. I'm like, nobody gives a fuck. We don't know who you are.
All right. So I actually knew a little bit about that, and then that like right now is so fucking cringe. It's hilarious. It's so cringe, man. It's
no, man,
like you
like,
guys don't
here's-
understand this, man.
Here's fucking AIDS, and here's fucking gay, like all the way over here, like 20 miles from it. It's like, yes, it is gayer than that. I'm like, guys, and again, the whole, like I said, like the supporting, like the even like with the Olympic opening thing the other day. Did you see this?
No, man, I don't get Peacock.
Okay, so this is a thing where there were a lot of people who were pissed off about the French opening of this because it was filled with drag queens and it was mocking the Last Supper, right? And they're like, well, actually, no, this is the birth of Dionysus. I'm like, it's like, you know what? Don't fucking piss on my leg and tell me it's raining, okay?
Right, yeah.
Don't do that
How
shit.
did the French respond to that? It's like Catholic country, man.
Oddly enough,
They're about to flip over their government again.
there was, again, you won't see a reporting on this, but the fucking Catholics came out there like in fury. There were companies over here in the States who were like, not sponsoring you anymore, right? And again, for me, like, I don't care, right? I don't care. I'm like, this is just again, it's when it comes down, it's like, express yourself however you want,
Yeah, sure.
accept the consequences. That's fine. Don't try to backpedal and say it's like, well, actually, we were doing this. I'm like, yes, you also did this, but it's clear what you were doing with the imagery that you were doing, and own it. It's fine. The thing is,
If you're gonna float it, yeah,
yes,
Yeah, no, I get that.
and I get it. The whole reason that you do this to Christians and Catholics is because fucking buildings don't explode when you do this, right?
Yeah.
They don't. It's
Not
not.
yet.
It's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend. An abortion clinic hasn't been blown up in for fucking ever. It's not what it used to be. Okay, if you just throw it out there straightforward. You would not do this to Islam. Don't even pretend. Don't even act. You
No,
would
not
in
in
a
France
million
for sure.
fucking
Yeah.
years.
No, they have way too much.
No,
There's way too much pain associated with that.
absolutely.
I mean, that whole.
The Charlie Hebdo thing?
Oh, not even the nightclub shooting was the
Oh,
worst.
yeah.
They
Okay.
killed like 200-300 people.
My
It's
fault. Yeah,
terrible.
I forgot about that one.
So,
yeah,
yeah,
At
they
the
just-
concert
Yeah,
as well. Yeah,
They
yeah.
just walked in with AKs and just lit people up.
Dude, what I'm talking about is like, so I'm not going to be offended, like, but if that's what you're going for, again, I have no problem with expression, avant-garde art, whatever it is that you want to do. Say it.
Yeah, no, they think there's people. Some people think they're sneaky, especially with that stuff. But
yeah, that was something that she's like Arista, like I'm all for this. It's like you're digging it deeper, right? You're digging. These are the people that you need to get. Okay, the drag queen loving people like this are already
they're all
on
gonna
your
vote for you.
side.
Yeah, they're gonna vote for you. Stop doubling down on that. Yeah, no, this is. I mean. So, I mean, in theory, she could actually, like, move a little bit towards this. I think Donald Trump has way more, like, he's got a lot more runway to move to the center. You know?
He does.
Yeah, and he's already doing it slowly. I mean, his whole thing with not the 1519 Pro 16, what is the project?
Project 2020.
2025 is just hilarious where they're still banging that drum, and he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So, and then he's like
the chief architect.
I
I'm like,
know. And then, well, your chief of staff is the guy who wrote it. He's like, yeah, that guy needed a job after 2020. You know? So, you think I'm going to hire him again? So, it's just, it's hilarious, in some respects because, so he's going to do the Teflon thing. So, we'll see if J.D. Vance gets out of it, but he might. Because Donald Trump's not going to change him out, which is fine.
No, it's
I don't think that. I think Donald Trump could run with a fucking ham sandwich and he'd still take this thing home.
Bro,
So, I don't think it really matters who is what or who his number two is.
in every election I've paid attention to since like 1996,
It's
maybe
never
1992, it moves the needle this.
Yeah. Well,
much.
which matters in like states where they're all by a point anyway, but it's just not going to matter in the long run, man. The only one that I can think of is like Dan Quayle doing Potatoe. So, that was a long fucking time ago.
That's correct, yeah.
So, yeah, when people were like, oh my God, he's a retard. They actually used that word on NBC News. So, but actually, which was unfair because he was actually really smart, but whatever.
He was. I mean, he is incorrect, though.
What?
He is incorrect.
Yeah, he was incorrect.
But at the same time, I mean,
it was kind of funny.
that Patrick.
But that didn't-
That's
that-
what.
that's
That's
not-
not for a political scandal back then.
Yeah, no, I mean, Donald Trump would literally have to shoot somebody, so who didn't deserve it. We'll put it that way. Whereas Kamala Harris, I mean, I don't know how thoroughly she's been vetted. We're gonna have to see what comes out. Like Newsmax and Fox News are doing their homework right now, so she will eventually have to, and like that's one of the things they can't kick Fox News out of the press box. So she's gonna start getting some harder questions here pretty soon, man. So that was a funny thing. I don't know. Like I still listen to Matt Taibbi and Walter Kern.
Oh, yeah,
every
yeah,
single
yeah.
week. They're hilarious. But they actually they did some little inside baseball on the RNC. So where they had MSNBC, and they had their live feed, of the whole thing. And they're both like, yeah, that's that camera right over there. They're not even here.
What?
Yeah, they weren't even there. So there wasn't anybody from NBC actually at the
No
RNC.
shit, really?
No, they just had a little camera that was doing that, and they were doing it all in the studio in New York, in the screens. So it looked like it was, they completely blew the lid off that one. They're like, yep, so there's the New York Times, there's Fox News, there's the big three, CBS and ABC, and there's an empty spot right there that has no NBC guys in it.
Are you for real?
Dead serious. Yeah, they didn't even go. So they didn't even go. So in order to learn, you had to watch the live stream because later they don't post those. They're behind a paywall. So, but it was hilarious. So it was like they're not even here, man. So,
Well, you said one other thing here when it comes to like independent media. I'll close on this, right? This was what got me here. What are the top 2 podcasts in the business?
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Well, I know Rogan's one of them.
He's number 2.
Yeah, the top one is. Oh man, I just saw this the other day. It's not Pod Save America. No,
Nope.
It's that one with the tech guys. No, it's not. Which one
Nope.
is it?
This is the big surprising one. Number 1 and 2. Number 1 is Tucker Carlson.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Surprises me because when it comes
Nah,
down, you're saying like who owns independent media?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the shit right there where you're like, all right. So if you're talking the big,
Is this on Spotify?
uh-huh.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So
It does me because when you're talking about mediums that used to be owned by a certain group,
yeah.
right? It ain't like that no more.
No, it's not. Yeah, no.
It's not.
Not since old man Murdoch got too old to give a shit. So
Yeah. So it's
no, that doesn't surprise me at all that Tucker's up there.
So when you're talking about if anybody's going to do the podcast circuit and make some news out of it, it's not going to be Harris on the 2 biggest ones out there.
No, but you don't have to go too far down that list to find some of your lefty ones. Like, NPR is definitely up there.
You can find but that's the thing is
The New York Times has a huge one with Ezra Klein that I guarantee you it's on your top 10. So
it'll be on my top 10.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing is the ones that people look at the most. And
I don't think too many.
anybody-
Nobody who's like not are their mind made up is watching Tucker Carlson.
that's what I'm
You
talking
wouldn't
about.
go on now,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So now Donald Trump could go on Tucker Carlson and not gain a single additional vote. He could go on Rogan and gain quite a few.
Yes.
So yeah. So
Harris cannot.
no,
She can't go on either of those 2, number 1 or number 2.
No, but she could go on. What's the big one with it's the 3 big tech guys. So they're all part of that mafia.
That mafia.
Yeah, whatever it is that I can't remember. So they're Silicon Valley dudes. I don't know. I can't stand it because I can't stand like their uber libertarian crypto bro like vibe. But they're actually pretty moderate, so she could get them on. So I don't know which one it is.
You just touch another thing with a crypto bro and Donald Trump. Did you see that?
I saw about 10 different scams running at the same time, so I turned that off, man, because I couldn't tell which one was real.
Okay.
So there was AI generated Elon Musk telling me to scan the QR code and send my fucking Bitcoin to them. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm going to get off the YouTube here. This smells fishy. So we can talk about that next time.
That's that. Yeah, you're right. This we opened up a big ass can of worms here, so let's
let's go ahead and put a pin in that. We'll be back. Shit Volcano Part 3 coming your way.
Yeah, nobody put a lid on it or fucking
it's not plugged.
Yeah, nobody
just taking a little breather right now.
Nobody drilled a hole into it and started pumping water into it. So
yeah, exactly. So the faces look the same. Shit.
All right.
I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
Hitting the button.
Yeah.